I know that there were other parties in the room. I'm not sure if anybody had any other comment. Mr. Hanson or
No.
Mr. White?
No.
Or, okay. And
we're live on Facebook.
Thank you. Chairman, we'd like to continue at this time. I'd like to ask that the witness, Mr. Carlton Adams, be sworn. If his live feed could be turned on, and then he could be sworn or could swear himself.
Yes, Counsel. I believe he was previously sworn only 26, but this is out of abundance of caution.
Thank you, Chairman.
So what are you saying? Do what?
Good morning, Mr. Adams.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Do you have a Bible there with you?
I do not.
Okay.
We are not able to find one in the building, to be honest.
Could I ask you then to consent to affirm to speak the truth, sir?
I affirm.
Okay, could you raise your right hand? Could you repeat after me? I, Carlton Adams.
I, Carlton Adams.
Do solemnly.
Do solemnly.
Sincerely.
Sincerely.
And truly declare and affirm.
And truly declare and affirm.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
To the Commission of Inquiry.
To the Commission of Inquiry.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
Nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to take you to Exhibit CA1-015. It is a report that was tendered through you on the last occasion that you attended the Commission of Inquiry. Do you have a copy of that exhibit? It is a report by you, a review of the George and Charles Brown submission to the Commission of Inquiry into historic land loss.
I have a copy, but I don't have that particular one.
Okay.
Let me speak to...
That's fine. I'll have the Secretariat project it on the screen. It is CA1015. Not to worry, I'll assist you. It will even assist us even more.
All right, sir.
Yes. It consists of 14 pages. Do you recall this report? It's, as I said, CA1015.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, based on what appears on the screen, this report was submitted by you in November of 2020, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And to who did you submit this report to?
The Commission of Inquiry Secretariat.
Okay. Now, the purpose of submitting this report, why did you submit this report?
That was to bring to their attention my review of the submission of the Charles Brown.
Okay. Now, this review that you had conducted, the review was conducted based on your review of documents?
That's correct.
And this report, which is an exhibit dated November 20, I'm sorry?
No, I was just clearing my throat, sorry.
This report, which is dated November 2020, you stand by this report today, April 23, 2021?
I beg your pardon, sir.
Do you stand by this report that is dated November 20, 2020. Do you stand by this report today, the 23rd of April, 2021?
Yes.
Now, might I take you first and foremost, well, before we take you to any part of the report, this report, have you done similar reports in other matters that you reviewed, other claims?
I am currently doing one in relation to another matter, yes.
Okay, but you have actually reviewed other claims. So you have actually reviewed other claims that are before the Commission of Inquiry.
I have, yes.
But to date, this report is the only report that you have submitted in respect of the claims that you have reviewed.
That's correct.
And about how many matters have you actually reviewed?
Likely a dozen. I'm not sure of the exact number.
Okay. Why did you do a report in this case?
This matter was fairly extensive, and the content of the submission was quite broad.
Okay.
And to try and bring some clarity to it.
Okay. Now, I take you to, before I go any further, to page 2 of the, well, what is page 4 of the report? I'm sorry, the first paragraph.
You speaking of the
Yes, it is being projected on the screen for you.
Yes. Okay. I see that.
Okay. Now, could I just ask you to read that first paragraph for me, ending at the word land, beginning with the word the submission.
The submission consists of copies of a will and other documents which trace the ownership of land by Augustus Virgil and his descendants, including that owned by John Augustus Alexander Virgil in 1961, and makes allegations of fraud against individuals involved in its sales and the purchase of Virgil's land, and against an entity involved with the probate of the will, the Bank of N.T. Butterfield Executor and Trust Company Limited. In the absence of supporting evidence, the assertions appearing to derive from interpretation of the circumstances surrounding the sale of the land.
Okay, so I just direct your attention to the last 2 lines of that paragraph that you have just read. And this is your conclusion, well, your summary, that in the absence of supporting evidence, the assertions appearing to derive from interpretation of the circumstances surrounding the sale of land. That's your conclusion.
Yes.
And you maintain that there is still no supporting evidence regarding the assertions that have been made of fraud. Do you maintain that position?
Sorry, sir. Could you say that again, please?
In the last 2 lines, you have what I call a conclusion. You have stated, in the absence of supporting evidence, the assertions appearing to derive from interpretation of the circumstances surrounding the sale of the land. And what I'm doing, I'm just taking you back to the said paragraph at line 3, where you said, in the middle of the line, and makes allegations of fraud against individuals involved. So I'm just asking you, is that what you're referring to, that there's an absence of supporting evidence of allegations of fraud against individuals involved in the sales and purchases of Virgil's land?
Correct, yes.
Okay. But I then take you to page 11. At paragraph 5, the 5th paragraph. under the heading adverse finding. Could you read that paragraph for me on the adverse finding?
Yes. Were Pearman and Doers alive today, it may be that adverse findings would be appropriate with respect to their actions and those of Pearman's lawyer, David Wilkinson. However, all of them are deceased, and in the absence of evidence of wrongdoing, there does not appear to be grounds or justification for such a finding with respect to entities and individuals against whom allegations have been asserted. These being Appleby, Sperlin, and Kemp, the Bank of Butterfield Executive and Trust Company Limited, Sir John Swan, and individuals to whom property was sold following subdivision into lots.
Okay, thank you. So were you under the heading adverse finding? What is an adverse finding?
I believe that to be one in which it is indicated that a person has been named as having been responsible for a set of actions or something of that nature.
Okay.
In a given situation.
Thank you. And what exactly do you mean when you say here, were Pearman and Doers alive, it may be that adverse findings would be appropriate? What's the basis of you saying that?
That Mr. Pearman's conduct and handling of this raises a number of questions around his propriety.
Okay. And you say the same for Mr. Doers, that's why you have included a name there.
Yes.
And the propriety speaks to fraud. Just a minute.
Sorry.
The propriety you refer to speaks to fraudulent transactions.
Fraudulent and questionable.
Okay, thank you. So let me take you back again to page 4. At page 4, the first paragraph where you have the assertions appearing to derive, in the absence of supporting evidence, the assertions appearing to derive from interpretation of circumstances surrounding the sale of the land. Where you said that, are you now saying, well, you have said in a later part of your report that there actually are circumstances, my words, where there are fraudulent circumstances or impropriety?
Yes, as it relates to that individual.
So in respect of this statement here, where you have would you agree with me that the statement then is not correct? That there is supporting evidence?
No, I wouldn't. The submission itself made reference to what would amount to felonious conspiracy. And that's not something that I could see to be the case.
And my question is in respect of a fraudulent transaction or impropriety. What I'm saying, let me put it another way. On page 4, you say one thing, and on page 11, you say another, which is correct. Is it that you're saying on page 4 there's an absence, or you're saying on page 11 that there is, sorry, page 4 there's none, and page 11 there's, which is it? Which is it that you're contending?
I am referring to the general, in a generality on page 4, but Mr. Pearman's behavior, as I saw it, speaks to what I have described it as when I say, when I speak to that.
Okay. I'm not sure if you heard the question, or would you like me to repeat it? Because what I'm trying to ascertain is whether or not you agree that on page 4 you say one thing, on page 11 you say something completely different.
Okay.
Okay, meaning you're agreeing?
Yes.
Okay. I'll move on then. Now, I'm going to take you to page 11 of the exhibit. Under the heading conclusions, I'm sorry, my apologies. Could you take me to page 13? My apologies. I'm just going to ask you, sir, could you kindly on page 13, read for me the page on page 13. Could you start reading from the former Detective Sergeant Thomas Cassin to the end of the page?
Former Detective Sergeant Thomas Cassin left Bermuda following retirement to reside in the United States, where he subsequently died. Nothing is known of Eric Arthur Jones, save that at some stage he left Bermuda. However, it is not known whether or not Detective Sergeant Cassin investigated the circumstances of the sale of land to him by John Augustus Alexander Virgil. One aspect being the sending of a letter of acknowledgement of the sale together with a check for £1,025 to John Alfred Virgil instead of John Augustus Alexander Virgil, suggesting the possibility of a mistake having been made by Appleby, Sperling, and Kemp. Of note is that an entry in the Sanders Parish Vestry Register relating to John Augustus Alexander Virgil for transfer of land ownership referred to above, dated April 62, reflects the transfer of land ownership to Jones at sheet number 12 of the register. Likewise, an entry dated July 1969 in the same register on the same sheet, number 12, reflects the transfer of land ownership to Russell Pearman and then to John E. Augustus. A further entry recorded by John Augustus at sheet 24A reflects transfer of the land ownership from Pearman to Augustus. The aforementioned information relating to the transfer of land ownership of Virgil's land subsequent to sale was not included in a report compiled by Bermuda Caribbean Engineering Consultants during 1996 at the behest of the beneficiaries of Virgil's will.
Just pause there for me, please.
Sure.
You have in this paragraph said, and just to be clear, you're stating here your opinion. This is not on account of what anybody said, correct? Correct, sir?
I beg your pardon, sir?
This is your opinion in your report. This is not you. You are not reporting what someone else had said. Is that correct?
I'm not reporting what someone else said, no.
Okay. And in this paragraph, the fourth paragraph on page 13 of this exhibit, you say the aforementioned information relating to transfer of land ownership of Virgil's land subsequent to sale was not included in a report compiled by Bermuda Caribbean Engineering Consultants during 1996 at the behest of the beneficiaries of Virgil's will. Sir, let me just break it down into my words because I think it's important. You're purporting here that beneficiaries of Virgil's will basically, and I use the word conspired, but they actually told the person who wrote the report to leave something out?
No, they commissioned a report to be done by Caribbean Engineering.
Sorry, let me read it to you again before your commission. Your words are, the aforementioned information relating to transfer of land ownership of Virgil's land subsequent to sale was not included. And would you agree with me, from transfer of land ownership to the words not included, you have highlighted in bold? That's correct? Is that correct? So is it highlighted in bold?
Yeah.
So you said the aforementioned information relating to transfer of land ownership of Virgil's land to sale was not included in a report compiled by Bermuda Caribbean Engineering Consultants during 1996 at the behest of the beneficiaries of Virgil's will? Are you saying here that the beneficiaries influenced the Bermuda Engineering Consultants not to include that information report?
Not at all.
What are you saying?
That the report was compiled at the request of those beneficiaries. They requested I believe, a search of Virgil's title, and the report was compiled by Caribbean Engineering.
Okay, I won't press you further. So and this is clear, what you meant to say here is that they're the ones who actually commissioned, they're the ones who paid for that's what you're trying to say here.
Yes.
Okay, and just to be clear, because I've read it, I've interpreted it differently. At no time were you suggesting that the beneficiaries of Virgins will influence the Bermuda Caribbean engineering consultants to leave out anything. That's not what you're saying.
Not at all.
Okay, good. We can move on then. Now, could I just ask you to continue reading from thorough searches to the end, please?
Clearly, the statement is not accurate, given that the entries referred to above at sheet number 12 were made in the
I'm sorry, could you just read thorough? We had stopped at, my apologies, I had stopped at Virgil's will. Could I just ask you to read from Virgil's will? My apologies.
Thorough searches have been made of the applicable registries.
No, I'm sorry again, Mr. Adams. We had stopped at Virgil's will. You have to continue from under the heading contingent. My apologies.
Under the heading contingent and limiting conditions at paragraph 1, page 1, paragraph 4, the statement reads in part, thorough searches have been made of the applicable registries in Bermuda and the old parish vestry records, Supreme Court records, and the Ministry of Works and Engineering records. Clearly, the statement is not accurate, given that the entries referred to above at sheet 12 were made in the Sendus vestry records in 1962 and 1969, well before the report compiled by Bermuda Caribbean Engineering, yet the effect of them was not noted or articulated in the report, thus creating the misleading impression that there was no indication of Virgil having disposed of land after January 1962.
Let's pause here again. Let's pause here. And once again, forgive me for paraphrasing, and certainly it is your document, so feel free to stop me at any time if you think I'm misstating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At paragraph 6 on this exhibit on page 13, you're saying that this statement is not accurate, and the statement you refer to is a statement that says thorough searches have been made of the applicable registries in Bermuda and the old parish vestry records, Supreme Court records, and the Ministry of Works and Engineering records. I just want to clarify, Mr. Adams, when you're saying clearly the statement is not accurate, it is this statement that you're referring to that starts thorough searches and ends engineering records, correct?
That's correct.
And you continue, clearly the statement is not accurate, given that the entries referred to above at sheet number 12 were made in the Sands vestry records in 1962 and 1969, well before the report compiled by Bermuda Caribbean Engineering. Yet the effect of them was not noted or articulated in the report, thus creating the misleading impression that there was no indication of Virgil having disposed of the land after January 1962. So my question now, you're saying that because the report does not indicate or make reference to these entries, that it is misleading and that somebody is trying to mislead.
I'm not suggesting that anybody is trying to mislead.
You have said it actually, but go ahead. You go ahead.
What I am saying is that the Caribbean Engineering report missed out the content of the entries made in the parish vestry records. And so in the absence of that information in that report, one could be misled into believing that it didn't happen.
But you go further in that statement to suggest that because and my interpretation, because it was the records dated 1962 and 1969, your view is that they ought, Bermuda engineer, Caribbean engineer, ought to have seen them. That's what you're implying.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're saying because they didn't report on them and their report doesn't reflect it, it's a misleading impression that they don't exist.
Correct.
And the mere fact that somebody, but when you say misleading, you're saying it's an intentional act to mislead?
Not at all. If you look at a document that is in some way defective or incomplete, then surely in the absence of the information that should be contained, you're going to be misled.
But Mr. Adams, on the one hand, when people read something, they form an impression, correct?
Yes.
And if there's more information, they can change their opinion, or the opinion can remain correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, okay. But would you agree that misleading is a very strong word which suggests that almost it was intentionally done? As again, I'm not finished. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It is a little strong rather than saying probably that they don't have all information before them, rather than suggesting a misleading impression.
Well, let me say this: the use of the word misleading does not imply a deliberate act. I am speaking of what has clearly happened by default. The person is misled by the erroneous content of the report or the incompleteness of the report.
Okay, thank you. Now, seeing that you say that, let me just jump to another matter, and thank you very much for clarity on these matters, but it's important that you say this, and I'll just take you then to another point. We're actually on the same page. And could I just ask you to read the conclusions? And I'm just piggybacking, for want of a better term, on your last answer, where you indicated that with new information, someone may be minded to, my words, to form another opinion. Could I just ask that we're on page 13. I'm sorry, my apologies. My apologies. We're on page 11. Please forgive me. My apologies. Could I ask you to take me down to the subtitle that has conclusions? Could I ask you just to read the conclusions from the starting word investigation to the word found?
The investigation into allegations made to police by Barbara Brown ended with no persons having been arrested or charged in relation to the sale of Virgil's land. In the main, it would seem, due to the inability to identify evidence to substantiate evidence of wrongdoing. The original documents having been the object of a search for a period of 5 months, not having been found.
Could I just ask you to continue to read to page 11, through to page 11 for me?
Detective Sergeant Casson concluded, referring to the original conveyance dated 15th of April, 1969, without the original conveyance and examination of Virgil's signature on that document, nothing further can be done.
Oh, please continue.
That money exchanged hands with £6,800 having been found to be deposited in Virgil's account at the Bank of Butterfield makes clear that a sale was made and that he, Virgil, was in fact paid for his land even if the amount was less than its full value. The Brown submission does not provide insight into what would have been considered the value of the land at that time, the year 1969. The statements of Dewars and Augustus obtained by Casson give rise to suspicion that Pearman's actions and possibly those of W.G. Brown may have been dishonest. However, this cannot be substantiated.
Okay. Continue, sorry.
David Wilkinson, however, was satisfied that Pearman had a valid contract and expedited the paperwork relative to the sale of Virgil's land. Robert Motier, who knew John Virgil, having drawn up a will for him in 1964, was certain that it was Virgil who attended his offices on the 19th of February and instructed him to send the deeds for his property to Pearman's lawyer, David Wilkinson. Further, Virgil's condition, that of alcoholic, living as a hermit and unwilling to look after himself, suggests one of two possibilities: that he may have been indifferent to his own affairs and was induced to sell the land by Pearman and others, or that he simply sold the land despite claims that he said that he would not do so, for £7,000, a sum possibly beneath its true value. This, when compared to the sums for which it was subsequently sold by Pearman to Augustus at £18,000, and finally when Augustus sold the land to John W. Swan for £60,000. Russell,
you can stop there. You can just finish the sentence and stop there.
which sentence you asked me to? I
Yes,
think
just the next paragraph. Complete the paragraph that follows.
Russell Levi Pearman is deceased, as are most of the persons involved with the sales and purchases of Virgil's land. The exceptions being Realtor John Swan and those to whom he sold property in individual lots, and are now believed to hold title for that which they purchased. Excuse me.
Thank you. Now, do you recall saying that do you agree with the assertion that the examination of the signatures of Virgil and Dewars were meaningless by Detective Inspector Waddle?
Say that again. I'm sorry. Where's that from?
The assertion that this examination of the signatures of Virgil and Dewars were meaningless. That is the examination by Detective Inspector Waddle, because he was not a recognized handwriting expert.
Yes.
You said that?
Yes.
Yeah. Where did you say that? In this document, correct?
Yes, somewhere in there.
Are you aware that there's a document examiner by the name of Brenda Petty who gave evidence to the Commission of Inquiry?
Yes.
Have you read her report?
Yes.
Are you aware, do you accept that she is an expert in document examination?
Yes.
When you had earlier indicated that, and I'd say your opinion, that in this case, the examination of the signatures of Virgil and Dewars were meaningless because Detective Inspector Waddle, my words, was not a recognized handwriting expert. Having had sight of Miss Brenda Petty's report, do you still hold a view that the handwriting, the signatures, I'm sorry, of Virgil and Dewars are not questionable?
So you walked me in a circle that time. I'm sorry. Can you say that again, please?
Did you hear the evidence? Did you listen to the evidence of Miss Brenda Petty, the document examiner?
I did.
And you heard her findings, excuse me, indicating that there were suspicious handwriting specimens, which she made a finding that is tantamount, my words, that signatures had been manipulated and fraudulently done?
Yes, yes,
In respect of your view in this report that there was not sufficient evidence to ground a finding, do you believe the evidence of Ms. Brenda Petty is supporting evidence of fraud in respect to this matter?
I can't be certain of that, sir.
Okay, it's fine. I'll move on. I'll take that collateral answer. Now, you'd agree with me that a number of your assertions in this report are matters that are for the commissioners to decide and not anyone else.
Which assertions are those?
Any conclusions you draw in respect of whether or not there is proof of fraud or whether or not there is proof of evidence, those are matters for the commissioners to draw at the end of the matter. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
And when you did this report, the main purpose of the report, certainly, it was to assist the commissioners to arrive at a decision.
yes,
And had you been asked to write this report?
not specifically by any one individual.
Is that no or yes?
That's no.
Okay. Thank you. And let me just take you back because I'm moving on. I'm almost finished with you, sir, in terms of questions. Having heard the evidence of Miss Brenda Petty, the document examiner, and specifically her report, which was tendered as an exhibit, but more so her evidence in respect of the question and known signatures of John Augustus Alexander Virgil. Having heard her evidence, you're not satisfied based on her evidence, even though it is not your job, it would be a usurpation of your function. You, in your opinion, you're not satisfied that there was a manipulation of signatures in this case.
Are you saying I said that in my report, sir?
No, sir. I asked you, let me just repeat it. Probably it's my Jamaican accent. I'm saying, having heard the evidence of Miss Brenda Petty, the forensic document examiner, having heard her evidence and also the conclusions which she drew in respect of analysis of signatures, having heard her evidence and conclusions in respect of the signatures, having heard the evidence that the signatures which she looked at and the opinion she reached, and let me just read it for you from the exhibit, which is based on the documents submitted and upon thorough analysis of these documents, and from an application of accepted forensic document examination tools, principles, techniques, and standards. The evidence supports my opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific methodology that the opinion reached on the question signatures of John Augustus Alexander Virgil / John Augustus Virgil Algernon Duas is as follows. 1, and I just read it. There's a probability that the 4 question signatures of John Augustus Alexander Virgil, John Augustus Virgil labeled Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 are not genuine and were not written by the hand of John Augustus Alexander Virgil. John Augustus Virgil. I pause there. Having heard that evidence that you said you heard, you are not satisfied that there was a manipulation of signatures in this case?
I'm not certain, sir.
Okay. And I'm just asking because your report speaks to an assertion that there was the absence of supporting evidence. So I'm actually not asking you to give an opinion of the expert's opinion. I'm merely bringing to your attention that you said there was no supporting evidence. And I'm asking you now, would you agree or disagree that Ms. Petty provides supporting evidence?
I can't say if it's supporting, sir.
Okay, thank you. But how can you say it's an absence then? If you can say something is absent, how can you not say something is supporting? You say something is absent, take you back to page 4. You can say something is absent of supporting evidence.
Sir,
But I'm not finished with the question, respectfully. And I'm just being fair because I'm reading your words. In your words, you can say in the absence of supporting evidence. And I'm merely asking you based on your experience as a very experienced and superb detective, deputy commissioner of police former, if you can look at something and say it is supporting. That's all I'm asking.
a couple of things. At the time of writing my report, I had not seen anything in relation to Miss
Petty.
Miss Petty. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I'm not calling her ability or qualifications into question, but if it were left to me to deal with the issue of the validity of signatures, I would have found an expert of my choosing, one that I would be that would be recommended to myself as a correct choice.
I'm not sorry. And what is that? I'm not following you.
What that means is that is a report that has been submitted. And as I say, I'm not calling the person into question. I am saying that if that was left to me to do, then I would have found a person of my choice.
I'm going to move on quickly, but I'm not really following you because certainly, as you said, you listened to the evidence. And certainly if you heard the evidence, one of the questions asked, and it's a matter for the commissioners to determine, she was asked whether or not she had been influenced by the persons who actually engaged her. She was further asked, she actually said she had never met or seen them. She spoke about a process of her engagement. Are you questioning then the connection between the persons who engaged her and her? That
most certainly not.
So what exactly are you saying?
I am saying this, sir, that the report done by that lady is her report, her conclusions. I would simply look for an expert of my choosing to examine that stuff.
Why?
That is something that would be that is something that if I were investigating this matter from that perspective, then I would obtain an expert of my choosing.
And you'd agree with me that that may not be the most transparent way, because what we have here is a scenario where no one knew. They chose from a pool of persons. Isn't it better to choose from a pool of persons rather than to choose someone of your choosing to ensure there's transparency?
If I had to make a choice, sir, this would come from recommendations from a source or sources that had knowledge of it. And if it included a pool of persons to choose from, then I would be so guided.
All right, let me move on. So having said that, and because you weren't able to choose yourself, that is it. Because you were not able to choose yourself, you don't give any credence to the person. Is
No,
that
I am not saying that. I am
what
saying,
you're
sir,
saying?
I am saying that we have that information. That's and it is as it is. But I would seek to obtain what I think might be the best source, be it a pool or whatever way it happens
So,
nowadays.
so you're not certain if this lady is in fact the best one, but it's just that you didn't choose her. That's what you're
Pardon?
saying. You're not
But
sure if she really is the best choice, but it's just that you did not select her. Is that what you're saying?
I know nothing of the lady at all beyond what
And because you don't know anything of her, you're not minded to answer my question in keeping with the document CA1/015, where you purported that words at an extract in the absence of supporting evidence, you're not prepared because you don't know her to say whether or not the evidence of Miss Petty is supporting evidence.
as I say, I don't know.
Respectfully, I'm not cutting you, but let me just repeat the question. I probably didn't hear it. And I'll move on quickly because I'm almost done. Because, and correct me, because you did not select this expert, because this expert is not someone that you were instrumental in having here, you are unable to give me an answer my question that where on a previous occasion in your November 2020 report, you suggested that there was an absence of supporting evidence. And I'm repeating myself, because you did not select this lady, you're unable to tell me whether her report and her evidence is supporting evidence.
Sir, I can't evaluate her evidence based on the fact that she said it.
You
And-
can,
and-
but you can evaluate your account saying that there's no evidence because you did it yourself.
No, I didn't say that at all.
No, that's why I'm asking.
Sir, if I had to get this information, I would have come to the commission for guidance. And it's a matter for them to decide whether it's evaluated, not me.
Beautiful. We're finished up where we need to finish because we go once again. And I am beating that proverbial horse. So I'm going to move on. I see Mr. White's eyebrows raised. The absence, you're the one who said it, your words, not anybody else's. You said there's an absence of supporting evidence. The assertions appearing to derive from interpretation of circumstances surrounding the sale of land. So you arrived at that having looked at documents, having reviewed documents, correct?
Yeah.
And sir, I'm just going to ask you kindly just to afford me the same respect I showed to you. I keep saying, sir, please don't answer me like that respectfully. No,
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
your assertion is the absence of supporting evidence assertions. It is yours. So you have looked at something. I'm merely asking you whether or not you can give me an answer in respect of Miss Petty's evidence. I'm not asking you about the merit of it. I'm asking whether or not, having looked at it, whether or not it is something that supports, it is now supporting evidence. Simple question.
I don't know if it's supporting evidence or not.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, I'll move on. Thank you. I'll move on. I'm going to take you now to page 5. The second paragraph. And I'm just going to read myself to you, go a little faster. The file, together with a number of other documents contained within it, recovered by the officer during the course of the investigation, cannot be found within government archives. This giving rise to a question as to the source of material clearly originating from the file. contained within the Brown submission. What do you mean by that? What is it? What does it give rise to a question of the source of the material clearly originating from the file contained with the Brown submission?
I'm sorry, sir. Repeat that. What are you asking me again?
I'm
Please?
asking you, what do you mean by saying, because the file, you said the file cannot be found within government archives, this giving rise to a question as to the source of material clearly originating from the file contained within the Brown submission. I'm asking you, what do you mean by that, sir?
That the file cannot be found in government in the archives, and so where is this stuff coming from?
And what does that mean? Where is it coming from? You mean whether it's manufactured?
No, not at all.
So what?
In other words, what source did it come from? That's what that meant.
But you say giving rise to a question as to the source. It's like what does that mean? Not where it came from, but you're doubting where it came from.
I want to know where the material was obtained from.
So it's just the way you said it. You didn't mean that you're suggesting that the Browns fabricated the statements. You weren't saying that.
No.
Okay, good.
Sir, I do believe that I try to use clear English, and I apologize if that wasn't clear. I'm not suggesting anything of the sort.
Okay. No, you'd agree with me, and rather than us going through each one, if at any point in this exhibit that you have stated an opinion, and I had put it by way of a conclusion or in a way of a finding, you agree with me that this is a matter for the commissioners to find. It is not your opinion, may be helpful, but it is not the end all. Would you agree with me?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to take you to page 6 of the report under the heading Expectation, Financial Relief and Settlement. And based on my last question, I'll preface it into this one, where it says this clearly illustrates that the expectation is that of financial relief for the perceived loss. However, provision of such is outside the mandate of the Commission, as is mediation, which they have indicated to be the means of settlement of the matter to their satisfaction. You agree with me that it is not, well, let me put it another way. That is a matter for the commissioners to determine what they can accept and what they should not. It is not for you to determine what is properly to be decided. Agreed?
Yeah, I don't make those decisions, sir.
Good. But you wrote it anyway. But I'm saying you wrote it down anyway.
That
as
was
to what your opinion is.
No, that was my understanding of the commission's position.
But you are making reference to something that the Brown said in their claim, and it is up above the narrative on the same page 6. It says, and I just asked you to take the page of Secretariat. Each of the beneficiaries have suffered loss and damage and put to expense. The beneficiaries claim damages for fraud and conversion and or breach of fiduciary duty and or fraud and or constructive fraud, together with cost interest pursuant to statute and such other relief as may be just. I'm saying you are making a comment on something that is a part of the claim made by the claimant. And I'm merely asking you, that is a matter for the commissioners to determine, not for you. That's all I'm asking. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take you then to the following page 7. just to continue once again, but generally, and I repeat, throughout the document, let me, I just by way of reminder, as I said, I'm near to the end. You had at the very start where I referred you to page 4, which I don't need you to go back to now, indicated, and I think I've beaten that proverbial horse, that the absence of supporting evidence. And when you say supporting evidence, you mean supporting evidence either of a crime or supporting evidence in respect of something inappropriate, correct?
I meant supporting evidence of a crime. The submission itself alleges criminal conspiracy. Not the submission, yes, it alleges criminal conspiracy.
And based on what you have read, the review that you made of the file, in the absence of the Miss Brenda Petty's report, which you only heard recently, you were of the opinion that there was nothing criminal at all that you had read or reviewed, no activity that you thought was criminal.
I looked at that based on the allegations that amounted to, if true, amounted to conspiracy. And I did not have access to Miss Lady Petty's report at the time. And so my remarks relate to a criminal conspiracy. However, some of the things around allegations around Pearman, I mean, they would be offenses by themselves.
So let me just go back. You're now saying that some of the things and your words in relation to Pearman were criminal themselves. That's what you just said?
If true.
Okay. So in respect of this statement, we already had you conceding that there's a difference between what is on page 4 and page 11. If true, what is said against Mr. Pearman would amount to evidence, potential evidence, which is criminal, correct?
Yeah, yes.
And it would amount to evidence supporting allegations of a conspiracy to defraud?
Yes.
So in respect also of your earlier statement at the start of the document where you say there's an absence of supporting evidence, you'd wish to qualify that in fact, based on your review, there was evidence of criminal conduct?
If true, sir.
If true, fine. You're not the fact finder, so I agree, and I accept that. If true, you'd agree with me that you would know in respect of the exhibit and where you said in the absence of supporting evidence, you'd agree with me, if true, that what you had reviewed, statements and other documents, there is evidence, supporting evidence of a criminal nature. Agreed, sir? You're now saying that.
Sir, I'm saying, if true, and when I wrote this thing and when I looked at this stuff, it was unsubstantiated.
I'm sorry, Mr. Adams. I'm not being facetious, nor do I want to stop you in your tracks, but I have been down the track, around the track a little times too. I certainly don't want to hold you to a yes or no answer. That is not my style, but really respectfully, let me just ask it again, just to be understand that you're on the same page. Your recent evidence within the last 5 minutes, words to the effect, and I'm sorry we don't have a real-time stenographer here to assist me. That person would be wonderfully placed now. Is that you use the word Pearman, and in respect of Mr. Pearman, some of the actions would be of a criminal nature. We agree to that, correct? If
Yeah.
true, if true.
Yes.
And I'm merely asking you that your earlier assertion that is contained on page 4 of the said exhibit, where you said there is an absence of supporting evidence, I'm merely asking you whether you agree that what you conceded in relation to Mr. Pearman's activities being criminal. I'm merely asking you now if you would withdraw this statement, or would you agree that this statement is not true, that there's an absence? I'm asking you, and I'm asking you many questions in one. Would you agree now, sir, that there is in fact supporting evidence?
If true, sir.
If true, thank you. I'll move on. I'll take that. I'll run with it.
Not far.
It's a 100-meter sprint, and not a 5,000-meter race, Mr. White. I'm almost finished. Could I just ask you to, it's a very bad thing to ask a Jamaican where something is. They'll tell you just around the corner. And I said, I'm almost finished with that. I'm just around the corner.
And that horse has been killed 3 times.
No, and it's the same horse. That's important too.
The whole herd of them.
Not 3 different horses. Can I take you now to page 12. We're going to speak about Mr. W.G. Brown. In your report on page 12, in the 3rd paragraph, and I read it just for brevity and speed, you say the statements of Duas and Augustus obtained by Caston give rise to suspicion that Pearman's actions were possibly those of W.G. Brown may have been dishonest. However, this cannot be substantiated. Now, further down in the document, you speak about W.G. Brown. You're aware that the name W.G. Brown and that person is related to the beneficiaries who are submitting this claim 015. Are you aware of that fact, sir?
That's correct.
And here you're saying that the statements of Duas, which I'm going to ask him, just to ask the secretary, just to project it first for a moment, that document is exhibit CNLB 15, CNLB 15. I'm just going to ask you to look through the document for me. It's 2 pages, very short. I'm just going to ask you to read through. Let me tell you the question first. Your statement is, the statement of Duas and Augustus obtained by Cassin give rise to suspicion that Pearman's actions and possibly those of W.G. Brown may have been dishonest. I'm just going to ask you to read through the statement, Duas, and show me, if you can, what it is that led you to the assertion that the statement of Duas gives rise to a suspicion that possibly those of W.G. Brown may have been dishonest. Are you finished reading, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just ask that we are taken back to your report. Well, before we go there, do you even see the mention of the name W.G. Brown in that statement?
I don't.
Okay. Could you just go back to the exhibit CA1015? We're on page 10.
Page 12, I think, isn't it?
I'm sorry, yes, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Page 12, please. The statement in your exhibit where you say the statement of dues, and I just read the important part. Give rise to suspicion that Pearman's actions and possibly those of W.G. Brown may have been dishonest. Do you see anywhere, well, in the dual statement, what in that statement has led you to draw this conclusion?
It's in the statement of Augustus, I believe.
Okay, so you're saying that where you have here the statement of dues, that is incorrect. There's nothing there. You'd agree with me?
In relation to what, sir?
Your answer a while ago is you said the statement of Augustus. I'm repeating to you, sir, the paragraph here, where you say the statement of dues gives rise to the suspicion and possibly that, let me just read it properly. The statement of dues and Augustus obtained by Cassin give rise to suspicion that Pearman's actions and possibly those of W.G. Brown may have been dishonest. You have already agreed that nowhere in your statement is even the name W.G. Brown mentioned. I'm now asking you if you agree with me that you are incorrect in your pronouncement here that the statement of dues could give rise to a suspicion that W.G. Brown may have been dishonest.
Not do as a statement, no, sir.
And right. So the question I'm asking again, this statement is inaccurate by you. There's nothing there, in fact.
Which statement are you talking about? This one?
Mr. Adams, listen. We're going around in circles now. This right here in the document where you say the statement of dues, that part should be struck out. That is not true.
It's contained in Augustus, which is in the same statement.
Augustus statement and dues statement, you agree, are two different statements.
They are.
And I'm asking about the dues statement first.
Okay, I said it's not in Dues' statement.
And I'm asking you about this, the paragraph itself. This paragraph itself is incorrect and untrue. There's nothing in the dues statement that gives rise to a suspicion that W.G. Brown may have been dishonest. That is untrue.
Not in Dues' statement, no.
Good. Let us go to Augustus' statement now. That is exhibit CNLB 14. Just going to ask you you could read through, and it would be easier if you could find a portion in the statement of Augusta, which is exhibit CNLB 14, where it gives rise to the suspicion that Pearman's actions, but I'm more concerned about W.G. Brown, that gives rise to suspicion that Pearman's actions and possibly those of W.G. Brown may have been dishonest. Could you just direct us to that part of the statement?
I think you want to stop the scroll there.
Would you like to, would you like to stop there, Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Okay. And having stopped there, what would you like to, would you like me to repeat the question, or you're just going to go ahead and answer?
Yeah, repeat the question.
Yes. My question to you, and taken from page 12 of the exhibit CA1/015. I was asking you to share with us where in the statement of Augustus obtained by Cassin give rise to suspicion that Pearman's actions and possibly those of W.G. Brown may have been dishonest.
Okay.
However, this cannot be substantiated.
I only went, can I read that?
No, please go ahead. You're free, please.
I only went there once, and this was on the 15th of April, 1969. I didn't sign it at John Swan's office because the witness W.G. Brown was not there when I went to John Swan's office with Pearman. W.G. Brown, the witness on this sales agreement, is a friend of Russell Pearman and most of the times hang around Pearman's place. This reference to Mr. Brown as being a witness is what gave rise to the suspicion. That's what I was referring to there.
And based on what you're referring to, you see reference there that W.G. Brown was a witness? Where is that?
It says,
No, I've heard what you read, but I'm saying where in that you see the statement of Augustus saying that W.G. Brown was a witness.
Because the witness, W.G. Brown, says it right here.
Let me be a little clearer, and I just want to, with dispatch, not waste your time. The line that you're making reference to, where it says W.G. Brown, the witness on the sales agreement, where in that statement or that sentence does it purport to say that Mr. Augustus said that W.G. Brown was a witness?
This is his statement, I believe.
But in fact, Mr. Adams, what it says is that, to put it in context, I didn't sign it at John Swan's office because the witness W.G. Brown was not there when I went to John Swan's office with Pearman. W.G. Brown, the witness on this sales agreement. So in fact, my reading of that, he's reporting something that he read, not that he actually saw him there or he saw him write anything, correct? Third hand hearsay. You agree with me?
I take it that he is saying that the witness, Brown, was not there when I went to Swan's office.
Right.
He's making out that Brown was a witness to something.
Do you see that there nowhere, I'm suggesting to you that nowhere in this sentence does it purport that the witness Augustus was saying that W.G. Brown was present? Would you agree with that?
So quite frankly, I'm becoming a bit confused.
Let me repeat it. I am suggesting to you that nowhere in this document does the witness whose statement reliance is being placed, John Emmanuel Augustus, which we have here as exhibit CNLB 14. Does the witness, John Emmanuel Augustus, say that W.G. Brown was present? That's my first question. Nowhere is that said. Simple question, Mr. Adams.
What's your question again, sir, please?
Nowhere in this statement, and more particularly where you're reading, does the statement attributed to John Emmanuel Augustus, which is Exhibit CNLB 14, does the witness John Emmanuel Augustus say that W.G. Brown was present?
No, he doesn't say that.
Further, I'm suggesting to you that nowhere in this statement and this portion that we have stopped at, is there any indication that W.G. Brown signed any sales agreement?
Sir, this W.G. Brown, the witness on this sales agreement.
You want to repeat the question again?
Sir, I'm
You have
referring to this.
your answer, counsel. He's
I'm
read.
referring, sir, can I, with respect, I interpret this to be a reference by Mr. Augustus that this person was a witness to something. It says it here. I mean, this is.
I'm not disputing that. I think Mr. White wanted to say something. Counsel Mr. White was saying something.
That was his answer. That's that was what I was saying.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll move on. Thank you. You could remove the document for me. So ensuring I have covered everything. Now, in closing, I'm suggesting to you that the support presented by you, which is CNLB, I'm sorry, no, it's not. CA1, I'm sorry, CA01, CA1-015, I'm sorry, is a report that you arrived at without all the facts, which would have allowed you to arrive at a proper judgment. And I refer specifically to the report of forensic document examiner Brenda Petty. What's your response to that, sir?
I did say earlier that I didn't have the benefit of Miss Petty's report when I wrote my report.
And I'm suggesting further to you that had you had her report prior to writing this November 20 opinion, that some of the erroneous statements which I have pointed out to you and you have withdrawn, you would not have made them.
I think that the content of her report would have featured in mine directly.
I'd submit, go ahead, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, I stopped you. You may finish your statement.
No, I said that the content of that report would have been considered for inclusion.
I'm submitting further to you that in respect of the conclusions drawn by you in this report, Exhibit CA1-015, that in a number of instances, you have gone beyond, well, you have, I would say, well, let me put it this way. You sought to assist the commission. That's what you're trying to do. But in fact, in respect of some of the errors you have made, in fact, the essence of your report is diminished. The true value, let me repeat that. You have sought to assist the commission by producing this report, but based on a number of erroneous statements that you have made, that you have retracted, my words today, the true benefit of this report has been diminished.
Perhaps so.
Okay. I have nothing further. Mr. Chairman, Mr. White may wish to ask some questions.
Mr. Chairman, I view the time. Is this an appropriate point to give Mr. Carlton Adams a chance to get a glass of water or refresh himself?
Council, we've got another approximately 7 minutes.
Well, you know that, certainly.
Mr. White, unless
Sure.
Mr. White, I think you should start your
Happy to.
examination.
As long as Mr. Adams is okay.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's quite sturdy fella. He could, I'm sure he can continue.
Very good, sir. Well, let's use the 7 minutes profitably. Mr. Adams, how are you?
Okay.
Great. Mr. Adams, to remind us, how long were you a serving police officer?
41 years.
And how many years do you spend in the Criminal Investigation Department? CID?
About 33.
33. Would it be correct to describe you as a very experienced investigator with some 41 years police experience and 33 years in the Criminal Investigation Division?
Yes.
You retired from the police service, I believe, and then were brought back as an investigator for cold case files for a number of years.
Correct.
And you were able to move some of those files forward, were you not?
I participated on a team level basis.
Very good. Okay.
In doing that sort of thing.
And you've been retained as a consultant investigator for the Commission of Inquiry.
Yes.
Tasked with investigating the claims, yes?
Yes. As you can appreciate, sir, some of the claims made are not as complete as to facilitate
Yes.
a way forward. So, yes.
So you are properly described as an expert in investigations, yes?
I'm an investigator, sir.
Okay, all right. You've looked at the evidence presented by the Browns in their claim before the Commission of Inquiry, yes? With the
Yes.
exception of Mrs. Petty's report. I want to exclude that for the time being. Yes?
Yes.
And after you reviewed those matters they put forward, you drafted the report dated November 2020.
Yes.
And you did that report, I suggest to you, based on your many years of experience as an investigator. Yes?
Yes.
Well used to to examining documents and matters and facts and reaching a conclusion on those facts. Yes?
Yes.
Mhm. In the report, you actually reached a number of conclusions, did you not?
Yes.
And those
Yes.
are based on your years of experience, was it not?
And I would think the content of what I was looking at.
And the content of what you were examining. Fair enough. Let's see. What can be done with quickly? You were questioned by my learned friend about your assertion on page 5 that the documents in the course investigation cannot be found within government archives, thus giving rise to a question as to the source of material clearly originating from the files containing within the Brown submission. What you're asking for there, is it not? You want to know how the Browns got the file which they can't find in the government archives, isn't that right?
Pretty much.
You weren't questioning the content of the file.
No. Well, so the content of the file is not complete.
Ah, okay. Yes, you did. You I think I recall that somewhere. Yeah. So you were asking, are you asking in that question or that assertion there, is there more material that's not been put forward for the commission?
What I'm getting at there is that from what I saw of the file and my insight into the content of files, I would have expected the entirety of that file, which is not there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. Okay, thank you for that. So you believe there are other parts of the file which are not before the commission?
Yes, I believe wherever they are with
Yes, we
the
don't know.
file itself.
Yeah, we don't know. Okay. My learned friend then took you to page 6, expectations, financial relief, and settlement. And you said that they allege criminal conspiracy for which there is no evidence. And I'm sure my learned friend didn't mean to say it when he was talking about Mr. Pearman. If the facts alleged against Mr. Pearman were true, that amounts to a criminal conspiracy, because I think you'll be able to tell the commission a conspiracy requires more than one person to be a conspiracy, doesn't it?
Yes.
So any facts alleged against Mr. Pearman do not constitute facts that there's a criminal conspiracy, as alleged by the Browns in this complaint.
That's correct, sir.
And other than the issue of Mr. Pearman, have you seen any evidence at all of criminality?
I have not seen any evidence of criminality.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Chairman, I see it's now come to 12. Do you wish to break now for the hour or not?
Council and all those assembled, I'll take your advice, Council. It would appear to be an appropriate time to break and resume at 1, unless there's an alternative suggestion.
I'm guided. That's fine, Chairman.
Yes, well, in that case,
It would also
Mr.
help me to truncate my questions too. It would help me truncate my questions, making the time spent shorter.
Yes, of course. We'll resume at 1 o'clock.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There's a note from Miss
Miss,
just before we break. I just asked that there's a note that was sent by the representative of John A. Virgil.
yes. Oh, could you?
But I'm just seeing it. Had we seen it earlier, I think.
I have not seen it myself.
Okay.
Would you inform me of what's there?
The question had been asked whether or not would have been able to advance the questions to Mr. Adams, but Mr. White nor I think, saw it, so we were not able to facilitate the questions being placed now. But I just draw it to your attention.
Maybe I could suggest this, that maybe on the resumption, you put the questions to Mr. Adams. Would that be useful? That way we get them out of the way.
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay, great.
They're quick. I can go after Mr. White.
Oh, I was offering you the opportunity of going first.
Okay, sure.
All right, we'll sort that out at 1 o'clock. Is that
Very good.
all parties will be present at that time?
Yeah.
All right, so, okay, therefore we'll adjourn until 1 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.